Hello, I am the cartoonist M. Rashid. Today's cartoon was inspired from an epiphany I had while talking about yesterday's cartoon. Uh, Specifically, that I assumed up front or all this time that when people were saying preference, like a particular figure trolling and hunting these threads over the years and across social media, an archetype of a figure. You wouldn't initially assume he was trolling, but he has all the earmarks of a troll. He's not engaging in the conversation and stuff. He's just coming to say something, but the tone he's using and how he's coming across gives the illusion that he's not trolling, but he's trolling. And he said, it's just their preference. When that doesn't make a lick of sense. How could this be preference based on the history of race relations in America? Highly unlikely, to ridiculous levels of highly unlikely. But the important part is how this person is using preference and what he's saying and how he's coming across. You're trying to stop this conversation from going in this direction. You're trying to stop people talking about this because it's agenda driven by powerful forces, and trillions and trillions of dollars are at stake to keep the Black American former slave class, the American descendants of slavery, disenfranchised and disunified and subjugated for continued ongoing exploitation and plunder. Trillions of dollars are at stake to keep us in that state. So everything that will pull us out of artificial impoverishment is vilified and held away from us. So making the civil rights agenda item like one of the goals that you would die for is the interracial relationship. So attempts to have a meaningful discussion in that regard, in that direction, is when the trolls come out trying to derail the conversation. Even in the video I posted about it, just people showing up like, why are you talking about this? Let's talk about feminism instead. Let's talk about, you mentioned the black patriarchy. I didn't say nothing about black patriarchy, but, that's incorrect. Let's talk about that instead. What did you mean? I'm like, okay, now that I see you, now that I recognize my error, now I want to focus in. There's somebody in my in another one of my sites who's he posted a comment, a lengthy post about some other points that I made like last week or so, and he's trying to give the impression of being like candidly honest, but a casual skim, before I even focus in, a casual skim sees all kinds of straw man effigies and lies and, trying to double down on everything that I know from that direction, from the white racist aristocracy. What you have to understand is that what you say to me never matches your actions in the earth. what you say is always a lie. Always. Always. That's what we started off with in this video series. Your legendary forked tongue. That when you say intelligence, you don't mean intelligence, just like this preference turned out to be a politicized code and a weapon. When you say intelligence, you don't mean the standard definition of intelligence. You mean skill at grifting is what you mean. You mean getting over on someone and getting away with it and taking from them. That's what you mean when you say intelligence. What you say never matches your actions in the earth. So I know you by the fruit of what you've done. I know you by the record of your deeds following behind you and the destruction it's caused in my community. That's how I know you. You cannot talk to me and expect me to just take what you say at face value. In fact, there's few things that irritate me and just annoy me more than you talking at me and just assuming I'm going to believe you, and you start off with straw men and lies. Your reputation as he who speaks with forked tongue. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in a very specific way in a chocolate city. And from a very young age up until I went to college, everything I knew about you, I learned from TV. I didn't have a typical, like I had a discussion with one of the old blacksuperhero.com Hero Talk guys, and he grew up in a in like the I think in a typical kind of American way, where he lived maybe in a black neighborhood, but it was a small black neighborhood where he's actually used to seeing whites all the time in his life. And there was he had that kind of Captain Planet Power Ranger kind of life where he's like, multi-ethnic, he's used to white people being around. I didn't grow up that way. So, and my father was a civil rights sit-in demonstrator. So what was going around me, I was not inclined to believe you just because you talked, which is how you walk. You walk like you expect everybody to just believe you. And like the guy in the video meme, I'm not that dude, I'm not that guy. I am not that guy. I know too much. When I see you, and I was born fortunate not to have that particular brainwash on me. That just because a white guy said it, it must be true. I did not grow up with that on me. So when you confidently lie to my face, when you confidently build a tower of strawman effigies about my religion, about who I am, about who you are, and just assume I'm going to accept it, but by all means, keep doing it. Keep talking. Keep talking. I don't want you to stop. It does irritate me. It does annoy the heck out of me just watching your mouth work. But I am an artist, and that's what feeds my art. Decoding your bullshit. Please keep talking to me. Please keep saying that stupid shit. Please. You're a cornucopia of nonsense. They're just continuously flowing. And I've dedicated my art to decoding it. So keep saying that stuff. Like, what, you don't understand. This is, you believe this, but that's not true. And it's not true based on what? Well, it's not true because I just typed it. That's the level of seriousness that comes from you. You're divisive, and I can't talk to you. Why do you say that? Well, because when I talk, you don't just believe me. We can't have a discussion if you just refuse to just believe uncritically whatever I say. That's divisive. That's the level of nonsense I'm used to from you. That's how you are. It's unreasonable. And you don't appear to have any idea that it's unreasonable to treat you that way. Your record of deeds in the earth make you the bad guy of the story. You are the bad guy of the story. The best of you. I'm not going to say what I was about to say because I actually don't believe it, and I don't want to caricature that in a way that will have the ADOS activists mad at me. So I'm going to dial back a little on that. But I say this. The fact that I, as the Black American former slave class, does not have my reparations, are continuously exploited, plundered, attacked, abused, treated poorly. This is your fault. And until I am made whole as a group, there's no reason to trust you. The reason why I'm like this, why I'm being artificially impoverished, is because of your evil selfishness. And this isn't just one or two people that, this couldn't be without all of you being on board in it in some way or another. There's this famous lady. She's old now. Her hair is short and almost like a bowl cut. She wears glasses, and she's famous for doing these like racism study kind of demonstrations with people using like different eye color and stuff. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but you know who I'm talking about. So when this lady is caught on camera saying she doesn't believe that we should have reparations while she's making her living as an anti-racism talking head, or whatever you want to call it. That's what I think of when I think of the term ally. That's the first thing that comes in my mind. This woman saying reparations for them? No. No. Anyway, come join my anti-racism seminar and pay me money or whatever. when you talk, it does not sound to my ears the way you think it does from your arrogant stank. You should know this up front. I'm letting you know this up front. What you say does not matter whatsoever. I expect you to lie, and you never let me down. Never. So, running your mouth with your legendary forked tongue, saying shit, while you continue to make moves to artificially impoverish my people so that we can be, for our own good, shoved back into the shadow, while you make yourself a protected class, a protected, oppressed minority, while souvenirs of my lynched ancestors like sit in boxes in your attic, in your parents' attic. I saw one of the ADOS guys, or one of the ADOS activists in Twitter. They had just purchased this huge coffee table hardcover book of, like, you know, the images of the lynching period. And I didn't say anything. I didn't post anything on it or like it or anything. I don't think I did. But my parents bought that book. And I happened to be visiting one day when it came in the mail, and they opened it, and we had a discussion about it. I was still in college. I was in my probably late 20s or whatever. And it was powerful then. But, like, looking at that book earlier today at the cover and my screen, I'm like, and then later on the same, earlier today, I read that post from this jackass. You know, you're gaslighting, and, like, you know, I'm probably not gonna respond to it right away because these last few videos have been getting really worked out. But I'll answer it and see what this creature says back to me. And then I'll make a cartoon about it. And it'll probably go over its head. But I gotta create anyway, because I have to. It's my duty right now. I don't care what you say. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't, you know, it's not your job to, like, convince me with your wording that you're not the fiend of legend, that you're not the bad guy of our story, at least in the modern day. I don't want to hear anything. Well, I would literally have to convert to dumbassness in order to believe you when you talk. And I'm not inclined to convert to that. I would rather, like, courageously see things as they are and funnel that through my art, or rather stay there. To do otherwise is nasty. I don't want to live there. All right, so this character showing up and just saying stuff to derail thread, to keep conversations from going in particular directions and stuff. I'm like, I've been seeing this a while, but before yesterday, it looked a certain way. It looked like here's somebody that's uncomfortable. They probably don't even really know why they're uncomfortable, and then they're just saying stuff to like, hey, can we stop talking about this because it hurts me in my feels, and that's what I thought these people were actually doing. It's just Harry Belafonte's preference. Come on, guys, come on. I'm looking at this dumbass like, what do y'all read? Fuck, you're stupid. That's what I thought at first. Now I recognize this as a trolling agent. It's, I might not do it tomorrow, but it's worth revisiting a few times and poking it bare and seeing what is this. All right, let me let this go. For those of you who've been following around, this is my 70th video now, and I feel myself getting more comfortable in it, and perhaps I don't say as much as I did in the beginning, which is really irritating me. But thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for your likes and your support and your comments. Both longtime friends and new acquaintances. I appreciate you. I would do it anyway if you all didn't say anything, because I need to. I need to channel this somewhere. I can't just rant into the void, But I make my cartoons, and that's at least 90% of me getting that stuff off my chest once I encounter it in the record. And then, to my surprise, I'm actually enjoying doing these videos, and it's a good compliment to my cartoons, I think. It's better to do this so that the artist can explain to you what the art is. We live in a different time. Once upon a time, the art had to stand on its own, and I do hope my work stands on its own. But if you have the tool to add the artist's actual description and what he was thinking to the piece, I think that's powerful. That's a good part of the record, of the art, and of the time that the art was made in. I read a book. Bill Watterson had submitted all his papers and stuff to this museum in Ohio, and they published a book of a candid interview with this legendary hermit figure, and in this interview he's telling us why he was a hermit, why he really didn't want to have that merchandise piece to his work, and he for the first time really laid all of that out, including his personal philosophies and stuff that was reflected in this classic during his lifetime strip, and it was an example of the strip, the majesty, the fun was better for me before he did that. That I think he talked too much, he said too much, he revealed too much, and as fans of his, I think everything was cooler from the position of what we made up around him. That once I read that book and saw the mundane and the juvenile and the not as deep as we thought it was going to be aspects of all of that, how some of it turned out to be a certain way for no other reason than because lazy and stuff like that. But what we thought was much more noble. So that's an example of, I think, you don't need the artist's description, that the work was stronger without it. In my case, I think I've spent the last 2 years. I launched my Weapon of the People Decoded series in April of 2018, and I wanted it to just stand on its own, which it's gonna have to do anyway. But I also recognize that art is subjective. People will show up with whatever baggage they show up with when they read or take in the piece, and they decode it in wildly different ways based on what they've absorbed themselves as truth, or what they consider truth. So I've seen examples of people like reading my style. You see it on 4chan as one of the biggest examples of people seeing it and calling me an idiot because I did not accept their version of truth in the historical record. They recognize that, okay, history is written by the victors, which means I'm going to slant everything in the way that I want to slant it so that I can look the best. They know all that. But at the exact same time, that because I just didn't uncritically swallow what they want to give me, that it makes me an idiot if I dig through history and see a different narrative that fits reality better than what they're trying to feed me from their history is written by the victors nonsense. So you're calling me an idiot because I don't want to accept as true what the diabolical fiend of legend wants me to believe. And you consider that reasonable, which makes it worse for me. I'm like, you're crazy. Crazier than I thought. Not really. I don't think that one can go any lower. But that idea, I've seen, people see a particular work and see where I'm going and weep from the concept and then ask me where I got it. And then I push the link, and then they're like devastated from how horrible history could be. And I just tapped on it for just one cartoon, and it was able to tap into that for them, and they were, messed up. And then the exact same cartoon can be seen by the descendants of the slaveholders. And they have a very different attitude, calling me names, saying, like, no, this is not true, and what does Im Rashid mean by this? And that stuff. Nice try, Im Sneed. What am I supposed to think? So I have been seeing all of these various impressions, like all I could do is like watch you. And if it's funny, or if I see a different angle that I can hit based on what you say, okay, you just birthed the next cartoon. So it's fun, rewarding in that way. It's like a back and forth that may not necessarily be intended. I also see them like, hey, I think Im Rashid's lurking here because look at this one. Like, they've done that before too. So I like the variety of responses because I know those different mindsets. And you can only know them by, studying history for real. Like, you gotta like really see with these people, you know. Whereas a lot of people study it with a rigid adherence to a particular ideology and agenda, and they either are not allowed formally inside of a academic institution not to interpret any other way than from the can script that we say you have to interpret these works front through, or like a lot of the 4chan guys, they are true believers in those types of narratives for their own self-serving, I believe I'm, semi-divine and the highest evolved human. They want to believe that with every fiber in their little stinky souls. So that type of narrative, they hold on to it with a double-fisted grip. I don't want to let that go. So if I'm like, I don't believe in that, that's dumb, it doesn't match reality, and they call me a moron, and other stuff. But it's okay, because am I supposed to expect anything else from you? I've known you for a minute, I've known you for a while, and you made it law that I have to learn your version of history and how you see yourself. And on top of that, you have complete control over mass media. I know what you're going to say. It wasn't us, it was the Jews. Okay, right. I know. We know. Somehow they're not white. Somehow you're different. You're the ethnic Jews. Okay. You remember the House of Israel from Ethiopia? Those guys who were following a Solomonic era version of Judaism, they did not know the Talmud. Their version of Judaism was from the Solomon era. Peace be upon the prophet king. And they were black as hell. These ones here that you're talking about were the ones who were run out of their home from the 2 waves of the Mongol horde and the Huns, and driven west to Europe. These ones here were the converts. So whatever their actual original ethnicity was, it wasn't the children of Israel. It was a Turkish, Russianish kind of. These were the subjects of the Kurgan. And the idea that they are fully assimilated into whiteness in every way that can be measured as a political identity. And you're saying, no, they're not. The idea that would mean anything, I mean, just because you keep saying it over and over again doesn't mean it's any less dumb. You invented the whiteness political identity. It manifests itself in a very specific way. They are 100% in every way immersed in whiteness in every way that can be measured. And they're great at it. And you're saying they're not white because we said they're not white. And I'm supposed to just take you at your word. What else do you have? Because the Beit Israel Ethiopian ethnic Jews give a very different impression than these people that Hitler was so angry at. It's been a long time since the Exodus. A lot has happened since then. A whole lot has happened. So the idea that people can just blanket, I'm this, after all that's happened in all these centuries. A lot of movement has happened, a lot of huge political moves have happened. With everybody. With the Arabs, when you use the term, these are not who you say they are when you say it. I had to very carefully stop using the word Arab in a very particular way because it wasn't real. The Arabs are not the children of Ishmael. You have to very carefully say, who are the tribes that came from that prophet? Peace be upon him. You gotta actually say the Ishmaelites when you refer to certain things based on the expansion of Islam and what that meant in history. Everybody who's an Arab isn't an Ishmaelite. For the same reasons that I can't take you seriously when you're doing your whole "it's the Jews" bit. I'm like, stop, please stop. These are white people. They're you. They're the best of you at what you do. Are there children of Israel among them? Sure. We knew that they were powerful. The children of Israel had powerful, huge, communities and stuff. They got beat up by Ferdinand and Isabella, just like the Muslims were. So, when the Kurgans people made the decision that they made, and the rumors of it came around, and they were like, "There's a what? Where are you? What?" They went and investigated. And that was some centuries where everybody was like, "Hey, we have our own thing now." And they were cool with it. So the movement that happened around that. So yeah, they're among them, The interesting part about that is that you all partner on the same stuff that works against me. But you all partner for your mutual benefit. Interestingly, so these black immigrant figures who are also partnered with you against me. You all think alike in a lot of ways. If I was a different type of person, I would be tempted to say that this was a proof of the Hebrew Israelites thing, but I'm not that. Nah. I talked about this before. Scripture shows something different. Those are not my people. I'm not them. There's a lot of things in scripture that we have in common because of certain moves that happen, but these are not my people. I am a brand new people. Proudly, I am a brand new people. And my advice to my people is to, full force seize that with everything they have and be most excellent as humans in the earth around it. In the name of God. And watch things change. And I think that the converging lines of history that show what that means was seen by a lot of people. And it's why all these greedy, grifty groups with their fake, cobbled together, eclectic ideologies showed up to court us in the 20th century. From Farrar to Noble Drew Ali to your boy Marquez. All of them were coming to, hey, I'm the one that has dangling the stuff in front of you and trying to prop themselves up as the guru and all that stuff and trying to like bamboozle you. They all felt you were right for that trash. Fortunately, we in mass didn't all like gather around any one of those knuckleheads. It would have been badly. But because they were only pretending to be of God. That's why. But the flavor of them trying to court us left the taint on us. You can throw the Communist Party of the USA on top of that pile too. They all were trying to court us, and none of them meant us any good. Not a one. The figures among them who were true believers in the bamboozle, sure, like Malik Shabazz, figures among them were sincere. But the groups themselves, nah. They were coming to hurt you. Everybody was trying to seize you and take your power onto themselves to raise them up. Everybody was trying to court you away for their own, especially Marcus Garvey. Everybody was actually trying to make you his personal slaves and do shit, and it's time to let certain of that stuff go. That's why earlier today I tweeted hashtag liberate yourself from classical karate, because it's a weakness to deify as infallible the people who came before you. There is no God but God. And to treat the kids who came before you, who didn't live past Marcus Garvey's stuff as they were, now they're gods and we pray to them, and that's why your healing and you being made whole tarries, because that's one of the things you do have in common with the children of Israel of old. Stop looking at shiny shit and being fascinated by it. Turn your face towards the one who made you and keep it there. Because I, for one, am tired of dealing with centuries of BS. And aren't you tired of it too? It's time to level up and move on and be where we're supposed to be. And how do you expect to do so by spitting in the face of God all the time. That's enough of that. Stop listening to your enemy when he talks. This creature cut himself off from the spirit the second he delegated you permanently to the bondsman class and left you there. Stop listening to that creature talk. Turn your face towards the one who made you and keep it there. And all your moves in your anti-racism fight and activism, give it to God. Do everything under God and prosper for real. Now it's time. Stop listening to the study history so we can learn from it. Let all that go. God only. There is no priesthood. There is no priesthood. There are no gurus. There's none of that. If the fruit of these people does not match facts and history and stuff, let it go. That's why ADOS is so powerful, because it's based on facts and history. It's data driven. It's real. And all these like other little rival groups that keep popping up and trying to like court you away in perfect imitation of the 20th century. You pretend to study history and you pretend to know, but you keep falling for the same BS over and over again. I'm tired of it. You study so you can recognize truth when you see it, and then plant your feet right there and side by side with it and fight in the name of God where you need to be. So everybody that's like, I don't like ADOS because it has slave in the title, and we need to move on from slave. Everybody like that, pitch them headfirst into the sea. Stop asking me about that crap. I'm, I live in my little 2x2x2 room and make art and do stuff, and I'm like out of the loop on a lot of stuff, so I don't see what y'all are seeing. I wish I could like be more present with you, and like I wish I was at the conference and stuff, but maybe next one. But you're y'all are privy to like who's in the club, who's on the outs, who's not, who's doing this, and I'm like, wait, who was kicked out? What? When did that happen? So like, this happens to me often enough where I'm like, all right, I need to, I wish I was more plugged in, because I love you. I want to be plugged in more, but so if you don't tell me who's in ADOS or who's not, who used to be, who got tossed out on their ass, if you don't tell me, I won't know. So I'm like still palling around with people. Hey, how you doing? How your mama and them? And da da da. Meanwhile, Tony and Yvette are like, and I have no idea. If you don't tell me, I won't know. So now I'm like looking on this one site, and I see a cartoon that I made for these people, and these people are talking trash on the founders of my beloved ADOS, and I'm like, and my cartoon is right there on the front page, and I'm kind of irritated. So please let me know when stuff's happening. An attempted coup, another attempted coup happened, and you had to like sever some people off. Let me know the list so I can be like, oh, okay, block, 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 block. I don't want you in my trash. Please, thanks. Love you. Peace.